Hello and welcome to an all-new episode of Flax on Snacks. Today I'll be looking at a product that I don't personally need myself. Gluten Free Oreos. Now this is a new Oreo variety officially from Nabisco, as you could tell, and gluten sensitivity has become, pretty well known in the culture lately. Enough so, obviously, that Nabisco has seen fit to actually put out a gluten-free version of their product. Obviously, you can just Google, gluten sensitivity, gluten-free, or go on Wikipedia if you're not sure what it is. At this point, I think most people have some idea. But obviously, the short answer is gluten is a protein found in many cereal grains, most notably wheat, that many people have varying degrees of sensitivity to, such that they need, or at least want, to remove it from their diets. So Nabisco has gotten on board and said, we will make a specific Oreo product just for you. And they have done so, and it is now available for purchase at your local Target, or at least it was available for purchase at my local Target. So if you do want this product, that is one place I could recommend perhaps checking. But this is an interesting one because gluten in foods is usually known for its kind of chewiness and springiness, resistance to the tooth, that sort of thing. If you imagine eating like a really good piece of bread, and then if you've ever had most gluten-free breads, there are some that do it better than others, but if you've had a gluten-free bread, they are frequently kind of just, sort of hard, or, they don't chew very well. They kind of break apart or crumble. So unless you need to eat that sort of thing, I typically would recommend not doing it. But Oreo is an interesting case because Oreo cookies are not really chewy. The Oreo cookie is itself pretty crisp. So I would think this would actually be a good way to kind of try it out, because it seems like you wouldn't necessarily lose that much of the Oreo experience by removing the gluten. And to test that hypothesis, yeah, I did. So this is going to be a taste test comparison of gluten-free Oreos and regular Oreos. Let's get started. So let's start this off by taking a quick look at the ingredients. So the first ingredient in regular Oreos is, in fact, unbleached enriched flour. Within that, the first ingredient and main ingredient, the rest are all the enriching vitamins and minerals, is wheat flour. Then you've got sugar, palm and or canola oil, cocoa, high fructose corn syrup, leavening, salt, soy lecithin, chocolate, and artificial flavor. Now, gluten-free Oreo. Obviously, we're not going to see wheat flour, so what are we going to see? Well, sugar is now the number one ingredient. The second ingredient is white rice flour. Then we have tapioca starch, then palm oil and canola oil instead of or, whole oat flour, cornstarch, cocoa, invert sugar, soy lecithin, baking soda, salt, xanthan gum, common in gluten-free products as I believe a binder, chocolate, artificial flavor. So a lot of those ingredients are the same. Obviously, the flour is pretty different. So we have this rice flour, this oat flour, the tapioca starch, the xanthan gum. That's all pretty different from what you find in a regular Oreo. So I'm going to open up the regular Oreos, and we'll pull out a couple of these. Pull out one serving, which is 3 cookies. That is 160 calories. And gluten-free Oreos, they have also made it 3 cookies, 160 calories. Smells pretty similar. All right, so here's one Oreo, and here's another Oreo. They look pretty similar. One way to tell the difference between them is that the gluten-free Oreo actually does say gluten-free on it, which is nice, really, because if you need this sort of thing, it would be nice to know. There are also some holes in the top. Might be difficult to see that, but there are some holes there that are not there in the regular Oreo. They both kind of smell like that cocoa, you know, the Oreo that we're used to seeing. The cream looks pretty similar, which I wouldn't really expect there to be any difference in the cream. Although I don't know if they include gluten in the Oreo cream, as discussed earlier, or actually, did I mention it? I don't know. I'm going to mention it now. Gluten is added to a lot of things that you wouldn't even necessarily expect to find gluten in, which is one reason why eating gluten-free can be kind of a big hassle. You really got to read labels, because sometimes they'll just slip gluten in where you wouldn't expect it, because it is useful for texture and stuff like that. So I don't know if there might be some in the cream, but at any rate, there isn't in this one. So let's just go ahead and start with the gluten-free Oreo. I mean, it's, that pretty classic Oreo crispiness. A couple of years ago, I did a taste test of every Girl Scout cookie that they were currently producing. And they had 2 gluten-free varieties, of which I only was able to find one. And I didn't search that hard for the other one because I'm not gluten-free. But I was curious. It was very, very dry. So that's been my experience with gluten-free kind of to this point. This, I mean, I'll try the regular one here in a second, but texture-wise, there's almost no difference, I would say. But let's see if that holds up. Well, I think there's a little difference, but it's pretty subtle. I do think that the crisp of the regular Oreo, it's interesting, right? Because Oreos are a crispy cookie, but there's definitely something kind of, a little kind of lighter and airier and bouncier to the crisp of the regular Oreo. I feel like the crisp of the gluten-free Oreo, it's a little bit stiffer. Again, it's pretty subtle. If you just served these to me and did not tell me they were gluten-free, and I couldn't read the outside of the cookie that says gluten-free on it, I don't know that I would necessarily know. Or at the very least, I don't think I would think to ask. Which I think is a pretty big compliment. But then again, you could argue that it also says a lot about just how Oreos are. It's a crispier cookie, so it makes it a good candidate for gluten-free because you're expecting crispy anyway. So it doesn't really matter if it's a little bit drier and a little bit dustier. With that said, could this have been worse? I am sure that it could have been worse. And so the fact that it is as close to the original Oreo as it is probably deserves some praise, even if this is a cookie where it would be easier to do that. Now, with that being said, you might be asking yourself, Flax, you're not gluten-free. Why do we care what your opinion is on the taste of a gluten-free cookie? Well, funny you should mention that, because I happen to be very closely related to somebody who is gluten-free, my sister Marion, and she is going to give her opinion on gluten-free Oreos right now.
Thanks, Robert. It is an honor to be here as Flax on Snax's official gluten-free correspondent. As you know, I have been gluten-free for almost 15 years now, so while I will not be an authority on whether or not these Oreos match up to real Oreos, I will be able to tell you whether or not they are a delicious gluten-free snack and how they stack up against a similar gluten-free product like Trader Joe's gluten-free JoJo's. So I went to Target and I got the gluten-free Oreo, the gluten-free double stuffed Oreo, and then I went to Trader Joe's and got our gluten-free JoJo's. My family has already partaken, so they're a bit banged up, but there's still some for me. Okay. First, we'll start comparing the regular Oreo to the JoJo. I mean, they look similar. The Oreo does charm me because I'm a sucker for detail work, and they have Oreo and the words gluten-free stamped on the cookie. So I'm a sucker and I like that. But the JoJo is pretty. Smell for smell, the Oreo smells better. It has a very strong vanilla scent, which sounds crazy, but a lot of the time, what actually tastes good about chocolate is a strong vanilla character. And this smells like an ice cream shop. This just smells flatter. Okay, here we go. First of all, am I a monster for just biting an Oreo? I feel like never in my life have I ever just bitten an Oreo. I would always separate it, eat some of the cream, but I wanted the full experience. Let's try the JoJo. Okay, so next to the Oreo, the JoJo is kind of crap, to be honest. If I were exclusively looking to mash it up into ice cream, I might go with the JoJo, only because it's crumblier. But, like, maybe because they use some soy flour, and I think the Oreos are just rice, tapioca, and oat. Yeah, that's better. There's like a bitterness in the JoJo that after having the real Oreo, frankly, is not very good. But Oreo also uses artificial flavor, I think, which means they're probably using vanillin, which is like cheating because it's such a powerful, robust flavor. It tastes good, but not exactly a health food. Okay, putting that piece of Oreo aside, I am a monster, I think. We're gonna try a double stuff. First, I'm just gonna bite it. It's a delicious cookie. In my opinion, I very seldom buy cookies because I bake. But henceforth, if I'm gonna bake like an Oreo themed birthday cake, or I just wanna have a classic milk and cookies night, say like children having a sleepover, the Oreo is definitely gonna win over the JoJo. It just tastes a lot better. And since we eat them so infrequently, we might as well go for the nostalgia factor. And frankly, they just did a good job. It's a tasty cookie, crunchy, the cream is good, they're gluten-free and vegan. Wow, home run. And nut-free. They kind of nailed it. So that's it for gluten-free Flax on Gluten Free Snacks. Now back to you in the Flax on Snack studios.
All right, thanks, Marion. I don't know what she said because I'm recording this in advance. I hope she liked them. Anyway, let's move on to the next thing. It's time for the ultimate test. This is a regular Oreo. This is a gluten-free Oreo. Unfortunately, I don't have anybody else here right now to help me with this, so you're just going to have to trust me that I'm doing the best I can not to tell. I'm going to close my eyes and rotate this plate a bunch. And then I'm going to grab a cookie and I'm going to see if I can tell which one is which. I'm just going to do this live on camera here. All right, here we go. Eyes closed. I'm not looking. I swear I'm not looking. And I will keep my eyes closed so that I cannot read the words gluten-free or lack thereof on the cookie. That's probably good enough. All right. Tastes like an Oreo. Well, I can't just go whole hog on this next one because then I won't know which is which. So I guess I'll have to take a bite. Those really were virtually identical. I'm going to say the first one was the gluten-free one. Yeah, this was not gluten-free because I don't see any hint of any words that say gluten-free or any holes in the cookie. So I was right, but it was really, really close. And honestly, the weight of the first one, which is just slightly lighter than the weight of the real cookie, actually helped me guess. But that's full honesty. But flavor-wise, texture-wise, these are dang near identical. Certainly to any extent that matters. If you're gluten-free, this is as normal a product as you can probably find. At the very least, it is the closest you will come to having the exact same experience as somebody who doesn't have gluten problems. And, I think there's probably something to be said for that. I don't want to speak for the gluten sensitive, but seems like that is, something that we would strive to achieve. That, you don't have to settle for worse products just because you have a particular sensitivity. Let's get some good products out there that cater to people who need their food produced a certain way. So I say, in this case, good for Nabisco for doing that and for making a product that is basically just as good as their normal product. Even if, it wasn't as difficult as making a gluten-free Chips Ahoy, let's say, they still did it. And it is perfectly good, even if you're not gluten-free. So yeah, it's basically a normal Oreo. It tastes great like a normal Oreo. It's everything you want out of an Oreo experience, except the gluten. So that's it for this episode of Flax on Snacks. I picked up a couple other things at Target while I was there, so keep your eyes peeled for those episodes, which are coming soon. So thank you to Nabisco, and thank you to my sister for weighing in with the gluten-free person's opinion. And we'll see you next time.